Today we're going to learn another 10 common idioms, phrases, and sentences that native English speakers use every single day. These expressions are super useful, and I promise by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what these expressions mean and how to use them naturally in your own conversations. Here's how you can get the most out of this video. First, listen while reading the subtitles. This will help you catch every word and follow along more easily. Then, play the video again and try to repeat the sentences out loud, but this time without reading the subtitles. This will really help you improve your pronunciation, listening, and speaking skills. Don't forget to pause and write down any new expressions you like. That way, you can remember and review them later. This is a great way to boost your listening, reading, and speaking, all at the same time. This lesson is a fun and simple way to improve your English step by step. Before we dive in, if you're finding this helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps a ton, and I really appreciate your support. All right, let's get started with our first expression. Number 1, don't get me started. This phrase is something you'll hear Americans say all the time when they have really strong feelings about a topic, usually negative feelings. When someone says, "Don't get me started," they mean, "I have so much to say about this topic, and it's probably going to be a long complaint or rant, so let's not even talk about it." It's like saying, "Oh, that's a topic I could talk about for hours, but you probably don't want to hear it." I remember last week, my friend Sarah was telling me about her terrible experience at the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, where you get your driver's license. When I asked her how it went, she just rolled her eyes and said, "Don't get me started on the DMV." I could tell she had a lot of frustration to share, but she was trying to keep it short. For example, if your coworker asks you about the new company policy and you hate it, you might say, "Oh, don't get me started on that new policy." Here's another one. Imagine your friend asks about your ex-boyfriend and you really don't want to talk about all the drama. You could say, "Don't get me started on him." People often say this when someone brings up politics too. "Don't get me started on politics, we'll be here all night." Have you ever felt like you had so much to complain about something that you didn't even know where to begin? That's exactly when you'd use this phrase. Number 2, I've been swamped. This expression means you've been extremely busy, so busy that you feel like you're drowning in work or responsibilities. When someone says, "I've been swamped," they're explaining why they might not have had time to call you back, hang out, or do other things. The word swamped comes from the idea of a swamp, where water is everywhere, and it's hard to move around. So when you're swamped with work, it feels like you're stuck and can't move because there's just too much to do. My sister is a nurse, and during flu season, she always tells me, "I've been swamped at work." She means the hospital has been so busy with sick patients that she barely has time to eat lunch or take a break. It's her way of explaining why she hasn't been able to text me back or visit our parents as much as usual. For example, if your friend asks why you haven't been returning their calls, you might say, "Sorry, I've been swamped with this big project at work." You might hear something like, "I know I haven't been a great friend lately, but I've been swamped with studying for my finals." Let's take this one. "I wanted to help you move last weekend, but I've been swamped with family stuff." This is such a useful expression because everyone gets busy sometimes, and it's a polite way to explain why you haven't had time for other things. Do you think you could use this expression to explain a busy time in your life? Number 3, burning the midnight oil. This idiom means staying up very late at night to work on something important. The phrase comes from the old days when people used oil lamps for light. If you were burning the midnight oil, it meant you were using your oil lamp so late into the night that you were literally burning oil at midnight. Today, we use it to talk about working late or studying late. I remember when I was in college, during finals week, all my friends and I were burning the midnight oil. We'd be in the library until 2 or 3 in the morning, studying for our big exams. My roommate would always joke and say, "Well, looks like we're burning the midnight oil again tonight," as we settled in with our textbooks and coffee. For example, you might say, "I've been burning the midnight oil to finish this report before the deadline." Here's another one. "She's been burning the midnight oil studying for her medical school entrance exam." People often say, "I was burning the midnight oil last night trying to get everything ready for the presentation." This idiom is perfect for describing those times when you have to sacrifice sleep to get something important done. Have you ever had to burn the midnight oil for school or work? Number 4, better late than never. This phrase is something people say when someone arrives late or does something after the expected time, but they're still glad it happened. It means that even though something didn't happen when it was supposed to, it's still better that it happened eventually rather than not at all. It's a way to be positive about a situation that isn't ideal. Last month, my dad finally learned how to use text messages. He's 65 years old, and all of us kids had been trying to teach him for years. When he sent his first text message to our family group chat, my mom laughed and said, "Well, better late than never." We were all just happy he finally figured it out, even though most people learn texting much earlier in life. For example, if your friend shows up 30 minutes late to dinner, you might say, "Well, better late than never. I'm just glad you made it." You might hear something like, "I know I should have apologized years ago, but better late than never, right?" Let's take this one. "I finally started exercising at age 40. My doctor said better late than never." This expression is really useful because it helps you stay positive and forgiving when things don't go according to plan. It's a kind way to respond when someone is late or when you're doing something you should have done earlier. Number 5, no time like the present. This expression means that right now is the best time to do something. Instead of waiting or putting something off until later, you should do it immediately. It's like saying, "Why wait? Let's do it now." People use this phrase when they want to encourage action instead of procrastination. I'll never forget when my best friend Lisa kept talking about wanting to learn guitar. She'd been saying, "I should really learn guitar," for about 2 years, but she never actually bought one or took any lessons. Finally, one day we were walking past a music store and I said, "Come on, let's go in and look at guitars. There's no time like the present." She ended up buying her first guitar that day, and now she plays beautifully. For example, if someone says, "I really need to call my grandmother," you might encourage them by saying, "Well, there's no time like the present. Give her a call right now." Here's another one. "I've been thinking about starting that online course. You know what? There's no time like the present." People often say, "We've been talking about taking that trip for months. There's no time like the present to book those tickets." This expression is great for motivating yourself or others to stop procrastinating and take action. Have you ever used this kind of thinking to finally do something you'd been putting off? Number 6, time heals all wounds. This phrase means that emotional pain and difficult situations will get better as time passes. When someone is going through a hard time, like a breakup, losing a job, or dealing with loss, this expression reminds them that the pain won't last forever. With time, people usually feel better and move on from difficult experiences. When my cousin went through a really tough divorce last year, she was heartbroken and couldn't imagine ever feeling happy again. My aunt, her mom, would always tell her, "I know it's hard now, honey, but time heals all wounds. You're going to be okay." And you know what? My aunt was right. It took several months, but my cousin gradually started feeling better, made new friends, and even started dating someone wonderful. For example, if a friend is sad about a friendship that ended badly, you might comfort them by saying, "I know you're hurt right now, but time heals all wounds. You'll feel better eventually." You might hear something like, "After my grandfather passed away, I thought I'd never stop feeling sad. But time heals all wounds, and now I can think about him with more happiness than sadness." Let's take this one. "Losing that job was devastating, but time heals all wounds, and I found an even better position a year later." This expression is wonderful for offering hope during difficult times. It reminds us that most emotional pain doesn't last forever. Do you think this saying has been true in your own life experiences? Number 7. There's not enough hours in a day. Now, I know this isn't grammatically perfect. It should technically be, "There aren't enough hours in a day." But the way most people actually say it in casual conversation is, "There's not enough hours in a day." This expression means you have so many things to do that 24 hours just doesn't feel like enough time to get everything done. My mom says this expression almost every day. She works full-time, takes care of my grandmother, volunteers at church, and tries to keep up with all of us kids. Yesterday she called me and said, "I need to grocery shop, do laundry, clean the house, and help your brother with his college application. There's just not enough hours in a day." I totally understood what she meant because I felt the same way with my own busy schedule. For example, you might say, "Between work, family, and trying to exercise, there's just not enough hours in a day." Here's another one. "I want to read more books, learn a new language, and spend time with friends, but there's not enough hours in a day." People often say, "I love my job, but with meetings, emails, and actual work, there's not enough hours in a day to get everything done." This expression perfectly captures that feeling when you're overwhelmed by everything on your to-do list. I bet most of you can relate to this feeling. Let me know in the comments if you've ever felt like there's not enough hours in a day. Number 8, I don't either. Neither do I, me neither. These three expressions all mean the same thing, and they're ways to agree with someone when they're talking about something negative or something they don't do. When someone says they don't like something or don't do something, you can respond with any of these phrases to show you feel the same way. At work last week, my coworker Jake said, "I don't really like pineapple on pizza." I responded, "Me neither," because I also don't like pineapple on pizza. Later, when another coworker mentioned, "I don't watch reality TV," I said, "Neither do I, because I also don't watch reality TV shows." These expressions are super common in everyday conversation. For example, if someone says, "I don't like horror movies," you could respond, "I don't either," or "Neither do I," or "Me neither." You might hear something like, Person A, "I don't drink coffee." Person B, "Me neither, I'm more of a tea person." Let's take this one. Person A, "I don't understand calculus at all." Person B, "Neither do I, math has never been my strong subject." The key thing to remember is that these expressions are for agreeing about negative statements. If someone says they don't do something, and you also don't do that thing, these are perfect responses. Have you ever heard native speakers use these expressions in conversation? Number 9, me too. So do I do too. These expressions are the positive versions of what we just learned. When someone talks about something they like or do, and you also like or do the same thing, you use these phrases to agree. They show that you have something in common with the other person. Last Saturday, I was at a coffee shop and overheard two people meeting for the first time. One person said, "I love hiking on weekends," and the other person immediately responded, "Me too. What's your favorite trail?" It was a great way for them to connect and find common ground. Later in their conversation, one said, "I work in marketing," and the other replied, "So do I." What company? For example, if someone says, "I love Italian food," you could respond, "Me too," or "So do I," or "I do too." You might hear something like, Person A, "I exercise every morning." Person B, "So do I." It's the best way to start the day. Let's take this one. Person A, "I speak 3 languages." Person B, "Me too, English, Spanish, and French." These expressions are fantastic for building connections with people and showing that you have shared interests or experiences. They're some of the most common responses you'll hear in American English conversations. Which of these expressions sounds most natural to you? Number 10. Our paths cross again. This phrase is something people say when they meet someone they haven't seen in a while, usually by coincidence or chance. It means, here we are, meeting each other again, and it has a slightly poetic or thoughtful feeling to it. People often use it when they run into old friends, former coworkers, or classmates unexpectedly. About 3 months ago, I was grocery shopping in a completely different part of town than where I usually shop. Suddenly, I heard someone call my name, and it was my high school English teacher, Mrs. Peterson. I hadn't seen her in probably 8 years. She smiled and said, "Well, look who it is. Our paths cross again." It was such a sweet way to acknowledge our unexpected meeting, and we ended up having a lovely conversation about what we'd both been up to. For example, imagine you're at an airport and you see a former coworker from a job you had 5 years ago. You might say, "Wow, what a small world. Our paths cross again." Here's another one. "I can't believe we both ended up at the same conference. Our paths cross again after all these years." People often say something like, "I moved across the country, and somehow our paths cross again in this tiny coffee shop." This expression adds a nice, thoughtful touch to unexpected encounters. It's more interesting than just saying, "Hi, what a coincidence." Do you have any stories about running into someone unexpectedly? Let me know in the comments about a time when your paths crossed with someone from your past. Let's recap what we learned today. We covered 10 super useful expressions that you'll hear native English speakers use all the time. We learned, "Don't get me started," for when you have strong feelings about a topic. "I've been swamped," for when you're extremely busy, and "burning the midnight oil" for working late into the night. We talked about "better late than never" for staying positive about delays. "No time like the present" for encouraging immediate action, and "time heals all wounds" for offering comfort during difficult times. We also learned there's not enough hours in a day for when you feel overwhelmed by your to-do list, and how to agree with people using "I don't either," "Neither do I," and "Me neither" for negative statements, or "Me too," "So do I," and "I do too" for positive statements. Finally, we discovered our paths cross again for those special moments when you unexpectedly meet someone from your past. These expressions will make your English sound much more natural and help you connect better with native speakers. Practice using them in your daily conversations, and don't be afraid to try them out. If this video helped you learn something new, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more lessons like this one. Tomorrow, I'll be back with 10 more common expressions that will make your English even more fluent and natural. Which of these 10 expressions was your favorite today? Are there any other common phrases you'd like me to explain in future videos? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing from all of you and learning about your English learning journey. Take care and keep practicing your English. Remember, every day you practice is a day you get closer to speaking like a native. I'll see you tomorrow for another fun lesson.